guys, so I am switching it up slightly by doing it this video outside. Woohoo! So let's try it out. So for this video, we are going to kind of be starting to wrap up our time period 3, but some things that you should really know. I've already talked a little bit about science and art in some of my other videos, but just to kind of give you a frame of reference on where we're at in this science and art movement during specifically the Industrial Revolution from 1815 to 1914. So when we're talking about this era, especially like towards the more beginning half of it in the early 1800s, this is going to be called the Victorian era. And the reason why it's called that is because Queen Victoria is going to be a little bit like Queen Elizabeth, where she's going to be queen for a very, very long time. And they have a relatively stable time period in Great Britain. And that's why it's called the Victorian era, which is also linked to Romanticism. Romanticism was during her specific lifetime. She was a very romantic, high emotions kind of a person. This time period also is linked with like an awe of nature and an advocacy for personal freedom and individualism, which we're going to see through like the Enlightenment during this time period, just before then. So some really important romantic writers that you should know about are going to be William Wordsworth, Victor Hugo is going to write The Hunchback of Notre Dame, Percy Shelley, George Sand, who was actually a female, using the male pseudonym so that way she could be published. And then this is going to also be the great work of a lot of musicians that are super famous in classical music today, like Beethoven, Chopin, Wagner. All these are going to be part of that romantic movement. Art, you're going to be looking at John Constable, J.M.W. Turner, and then Eugene Delacroix is going to create that really famous picture of the French Revolution. Another art movement, because art's a little bit fluid as far as sometimes movements sort of overlap with each other. Another one is going to be the realist movement, and that's going to be a direct reaction to the Romantic period. So just like everything else in history, with any sort of action, there's going to be a counter-reaction. And that's going to be through realism. Some of those important writers, they're going to, as you can guess, be writing about the stark nature of reality, that is the poor parts or the bad parts in the Industrial Revolution. That's going to be Fyodor Dostoevsky, Leo Tolstoy, George Eliot, Charles Dickens. I had you guys read a portion of Charles Dickens in class. You can remember that general idea of poor and children and living in a city, kind of that rising above story. And then we also have another time period towards the later half, which is going to be Impressionism in art, and that's going to be with your Renoirs, your Monets, and Edgar Degas. And also just immediately after that is going to be your Post-Impressionism or Cubanism. And those names are going to be Van Gogh, Picasso, Matisse. All these names are going to be linked towards the same about 100-year time period. So Victorian era is going to be the very beginning, like 1830, that kind of range. And then you go to realism, Impressionism, and Post-Impressionism when art. My bird friend is saying hello. You're also going to have some new science things that were not invented yet. So I'm thinking of Marie and Pierre Curie with the whole radioactivity, which of course ended up becoming very important when we're talking about the Cold War. Louis Pasteur is going to create that germ theory, and that's going to be massive for medicine. The idea of coming about to sterilization, and that there are things that we don't necessarily conceive very easily as humans that can hurt us, like germs. Charles Darwin is going to start to have that idea of the evolution of different species, but it's actually Herbert Spencer who creates the idea of survival of the fittest. And you're also going to see an increase in psychology and philosophy, specifically with Freud, that Freudian, somebody wants to sleep with their mom, like that sort of really, really weird Freudian psychology, but it's basically saying that there is some subconscious things that can lead to people's actions, as going to be Freudian psychology. So when you're thinking about science and art in the Industrial Revolution, those are the couple of things that you really need to remember.